So on Oscar weekend, it seems that they put out a whole lot of prestige projects in theaters. Or these. With that said, I think we can start with the Death Wish remake by Eli Roth, starring Bruce Willis. Written by Joe Carnahan, by the way, who did Narc and Smoking Aces and all them. The Grey. There was actually a lot of questions going into this, but weirdly enough, I have enough of a appreciation for Eli Roth, because I can't really find another word to use, and for what he does, because generally, well, for a while, he just kind of like really went forward and really went all out. I was a big defender of Cabin Fever, I was a big defender of Hostel. The Green Inferno was pretty crazy, and then, you know, shit like Knock Knock comes around. So, but even so, and I've been really excited to talk about, see, and review another Bruce Willis movie that was not some straight-to-video bullshit. I just did that, like, a couple of weeks ago. And so, this certainly had my attention, just given the credits alone. Like, I wasn't just going to dismiss it as, like, why in God's name do we need a Death Wish remake, especially since this plot has been used so many times before. It's like, you could make this movie with another title, and it would be fine. And it's, you know, change the names a little bit. But, yeah, so, and especially the question came as to what can you do with Death Wish now in a post-John Wick Hollywood? And it's like, if you're going to do that, you have to, like, really, really step up your game. And not to mention that we've pretty much already had a horror-based director tackle this material before when James Wan did Death Sentence, which is based on, like, I think around the same novel, if not the same novel. It's in that same area, the source material is. So, yes, but for some reason, I had hope. And I kind of had it in my head to where it was like, I'm going to go into this movie with intent to think it's awesome. It's like, I'm already, like, imagining myself trying to convince people, dude, like, don't dismiss the Death Wish remake. It is so, like, awesome. And, like, just goes all balls to the wall insane like that. Well, I didn't really get that. And I did have some realism in the back of my head. It's not like what I feel about this now is the result of that way of thinking. No, the movie did it to itself. So, the thing here is, when we start off, obviously, there's a lot of... It does feel very, kind of, it felt a bit shoddy in the first moments, when it's like we see a car chase of sorts, which ultimately takes us into, we realize this is just the lead-in to get to the hospital where we'll be introduced to Bruce Willis, because he's a surgeon. And he walks into the room, and we realize he's, like, a big deal here. He's, like, kind of the head honcho of the surgeons here. And so he goes into the room, and there's the dude on the table, and he's flat-lying, and it's like, oh, we're going to see what kind of big surgeon. He realizes we're going to really play up. He knows exactly what he's doing. He checks the guy's pulse, says that's it, and walks out. Well, okay, so the point of that scene is the fact that he's leaving the dead cop, and he's going to go now tend to the guy that shot him, who's in another emergency room area. In the kind of balance of morals here, like, how do we try to fix the guy that shot him when we can't fix the cop that's been shot? We never really tackle that kind of moral dilemma again. It was like it really, really wanted to say something, and then it just goes into the title, and then we just never talk about that again. And it's never really even somewhat mentioned again, really. So that was a bummer. And then it began, obviously, we have to make life seem as absolutely positively perfect as possible between Bruce Willis, his wife Elizabeth Shue, his daughter, and his brother, Vincent D'Onofrio. I must say, when I saw that Vincent D'Onofrio was second credited in a Death Wish remake, I kind of got my hopes up as to what role he'd be playing. Yeah, he's the brother that lends a shoulder to cry on, and that is all they use Vincent D'Onofrio for. To be fair, D'Onofrio does have, like, the only moments where it really seems to ring true, where this movie is, like, trying to have an emotional balance with the violent angle. But it still kind of ends up becoming a mess. And you find yourself just start nitpicking little things after a while, like, when the teenage daughter walks into the room and she's like looking around and she's kind of playing innocent, and then it's like, oh, she's hiding something, and it's like, oh, I got into the college I wanted to get into. I'm gonna go to New York and do all that stuff. And then it's like, oh, I gotta go text my best friend and tell her. It's like, there is no fucking teenage girl in the world that is going to not immediately text her friends before going in to say, hey, good morning, family. That just immediately struck me as, well, that just seems off. But that's not the real point. The real point here is that we gotta keep building up to what's going to happen. So to do that, to kind of build up suspense, I think, we are a character trait, if you will. To set up Bruce Willis's character, we have him on the soccer field where his daughter plays, and there's another dad standing next to him getting really aggressive, like cussing out the coaches and the refs and all that, saying, like, get your fucking head in the game, and Bruce Willis has to be there and say, hey, there's kids here, why don't we knock it off with the fucks? And this dude has the eyes of a killer. I don't think, once again, I don't think we ever see this dude again. This dude is simply here to show that Willis will not be confrontational, or at least not to the degree this guy wants him to. Because, you know, it'll be a big thing for him later when he's fucking everybody up. But the thing here is that you would think this would be like the setup to maybe like a payoff in the very last scene or something, like he comes back to bite that guy or something. No. Not that I recall. So that's just there for the purpose of that, and seems really out of place because, once again, this guy just seems so weirdly antagonistic, like when he's at a fucking soccer game. I know some of those dads tend to get out of control, but I mean, this dude, like I said, looked like he was getting ready to just knife everybody there, and it amounts to nothing except to say, oh, Willis isn't confrontational, don't worry, he will be very much so later. And that's it. So, finally, we get to the scene where the big turn happens, where we know that in the original movie, which I have not seen in forever, and sorry, Jeff Goldblum is not in this scene this time, the big scene when the attackers come in, and Elizabeth Shue and the daughter are attacked, and one of them is killed. And obviously this is like the big rape scene. And usually, I wasn't really sure how to take it, because when you see Eli Roth's name on it, you immediately get a certain idea in your head of like, okay, this movie is going to go to the absolute extreme. And with this movie, remaking Death Wish leaves enough open to where you can say, yes, I could see this being some gory, over-the-top, holy shit kind of thing, especially with a director who's known for doing the gory, over-the-top, holy shit kind of stuff. And it's like, and I'm not necessarily complaining that it doesn't have a rape scene in it. That's kind of a weird complaint to have about any movie. But it does kind of seem like what it is, and once again, maybe this is against me because expectations were had that it's not necessarily the movie's, you know, full inclined to make happen just because it was what was in my head. But when I first thought about the fact that there's the initial attack scene in the Death Wish story, and that Eli Roth was going to be doing this now. And Carnahan, too, if you want to go. He's over the top as fuck, too. So it's like, how is this going to go? And it's like, holy shit. Is Eli Roth going to be able to remake Death Wish and basically make his own Last House on the Left while he's at it? Like, at the same time? Because it's like, that sounds fucking insane. But no, the attack scene is very tame when you think about what it could have been, and honestly what it was before. A dude's face gets burned with some boiling water, I guess that was. That's supposed to be it. The rest of the stuff is like off-screen or it just doesn't happen. But I mean, and yeah, obviously a murder is still enough to set all this off. But just, it immediately felt tamer, which was the total opposite direction I thought an Eli Roth remake of Death Wish would go. But then it continues on there, and the problem here is that, as I was saying, where it's trying to kind of point us in that direction to where there's that, you know, kind of shift we go into, but makes sense when we do it. But it's like everything that drives the story in this movie is, like, just random as hell. Like, for instance, Bruce Willis obviously is the guy that won't fight the antagonistic dad at the soccer game. But then he's with Elizabeth Shue's dad, and they're driving somewhere, and then he just pulls off and starts firing a rifle at poachers. They're, like, killing deer. And he's like, yeah, you just have to take care of it yourself with a gun. And I guess that is the tipping point for Willis, who wouldn't even shove a dad at a soccer game. Now because he watched his father-in-law shooting at poachers, it's like, yep, that's what I gotta do. I gotta buy a gun and fucking kill everyone. That's exactly what I'm gonna do. So, that didn't really... It seemed like there was some missing ground here. But, and the way he gets a gun is just... It literally drops onto the floor in front of him, and he's like, I'll take that. That's how quickly this all happens. So, obviously, it feels like there's something off here. And it does kind of feel like there are also those moments before we even get to that stuff, where there's just kind of a general off feel, like he didn't seem to like quite have a grasp on exactly what he wanted when they started filming. So there's just really awkward scenes in here that are just really throw you off, like the fact that Mike Epps is in this, even though he's in it for like 10 seconds. I think the most screen time he gets is there's one scene that is just completely from out of nowhere, to where it's like, we're on one thing, and then suddenly Willis is walking down the hallway in the hospital, and Mike Epps is like, hey man, I got these tickets, and he's like, alright, and then that just ends that scene, and we go like right back to where it just feels really disjointed, and like the editing got all out of whack. Because that scene's just like right in the middle of all this, and it only lasts like 10 seconds. It feels like it should have been a scene like 15 minutes ago in our real movie time, but... and then there's the stuff like, the scenes with D'Onofrio and Willis are good for the most part, especially, like I said, in regards to setting up an emotional kind of ground here. But it's this moment that just really struck me as weird, where they're just kind of standing in silence. And it only becomes clear to us after Willis says, okay, how much, that D'Onofrio's trying to build up to asking him for money. But instead of building up to asking him for money by having, like, a conversation, they're just fucking standing there and staring at each other for, like, a long time when this scene starts. And it just feels really... I don't know how else to put it. It just feels off. Like, the whole time before any of the real shit has even gone down. So... it really had to try to pick itself up once everything went down. It was like, okay, once shit gets real, then shit's gonna get real, right? Well, I don't know, because there are some very interesting scenes here, like obviously they probably feel really on the nose, but I mean, they're still kind of cool anyway. Like the moments when there's a split screen, kind of like during the montage time. And it's a split screen of Willis performing surgery with his tools and taking apart guns and putting them back together and putting bullets in them. And like that's kind of cool. It's like the surgery thing kind of comes over with his precision and how he handles a gun and how he's kind of training himself. So stuff like that does work. And then there's like there's actually some genuinely nice kind of smaller stuff, like when he's telling his psychiatrist, whoever, about how to get away from his dad. He used to ride the trains, and that's how he basically coped with life. So now he's starting to ride the trains by himself again, just because, to try to get over this tragedy. He talks about how he's like in purgatory because he can't go home because that's where it happened, and he can't go to work because he just can't work. He cannot be a surgeon in this frame of mind. So he's just stuck. And it's like, this is where I feel like a lot of the character work could have done really well. Because, and you think, yes, it's a Death Wish movie by Eli Roth, just how much character do we need? But it's like, if you put enough emotion in it, like, and that emotion really, really works in the first half, that only helps the second half. That means the second half's just going to hit a lot harder when he's, fucking dudes up left and right, crushing their heads, whatever the fuck he's going to do, slicing them open, talking about their nerves and shit, using surgeon shit on them, and it's like... But the thing is it sounds so much crazier than it actually comes off. Which, like, there's one particular money scene, the scene in the garage, under the car. And it's like, if, like, every confrontation in this movie had been on par with that. And it's like, because we're going... Yeah, it is common for movies to be like, oh, this is good, but then there's, like, one big money scene, and then the rest is still good, but, like, this scene is the big moment. But there are so many movies nowadays that are really conquering that and making multiple big moments like that. It's like we live in a movie world now where this movie could have been made where every confrontation was like the car scene, just one after the other. And it's like every other scene in this movie is so far away from that scene. It feels like it was supposed to be, like, it's a scene from a much more hardcore movie just thrown into this one, right in the middle of it. And it just really, it was cool while it lasted, but then it was like, it very quickly became clear, oh yeah, but we're still in this movie we were in before. And that goes all the way through to the climax. The climax is so abrupt, and like we build to it, and we like establish like one final antagonist, and it's like, this is the motherfucker, this is the dude, this is the big dude, this is going to be the problem at the end, and the climax is like 3 minutes long in total, from when the dude comes, you know, to the house to when all the cops are there and everything's settled down is like 3 minutes. Yeah, there is like one kill in the house scene at the end during the climax that made somebody behind me go, "Oh shit!" But but apart from that, it's just really a lot more tame than you would think it is, and that honestly, to me, kind of hinders it a little bit, because if you're not going to go above and beyond now, that's when you kind of start asking, after you've seen the thing, then you can ask, okay, so why did we do this? And the thing it's like Bruce Willis's big comeback, because they were handing out the collectible ticket thing, and I think it's on the poster, and the tagline is like, Bruce is back. Like what I was talking about, where it's like he's been in like direct-to-video purgatory for way too long. It's time to... I think I looked it up on IMDb, the last two movies I saw him in theaters, like, were actually theatrically released, were Rock the Casbah, the really shitty Bill Murray movie from November 2015. Before that, Sin City 2. And what was that? September 2014? October 2014? Somewhere in there. So he's really needed this, and this was going to be like Eli Roth saying, okay, it is time now to bring Bruce Willis back. And it's... I'm not giving up hope yet. But I know I should have, like, a long time ago. But I am not giving up hope yet. Because I feel like it's in there, but it's like maybe he's still a little rusty, because when you act that long in straight-to-video movies, you might as well not be acting anymore. And that's really all there is to it. So I would say there are times here where I felt like something was there, but he's just not quite reaching it. Split doesn't count, by the way. So going back to that. But so the thing here is, there are these moments where I was talking about how the more you put emotion in it, the harder the violence is going to hit, because the more meaning it has. And these things with D'Onofrio do try to pull that off, but it's like, he still can't quite get there. He still feels very stone-faced. And for a while I was trying to think of, like, maybe that's his character. Like, maybe he's trying to remain, you know, calm. And because there is a scene where he's being calm and talking to Dean Norris and Kevlar Elise about it, trying to be calm and straightforward while occasionally wiping a tear away. And D'Onofrio's the one that's, like, going off on the cops. So it's like, maybe he's supposed to be the one that's not very emotional, not very reacting and all that. But there is a point where he does start to get emotional, and it's like, it's so good to see Willis trying again. You can tell a little bit. But, like, what he needed to bring to this was the scene in Looper when he kills the kid and then immediately feels remorse about it and just, like, breaks down. That's what we needed. That's what he needed to find again and bring here. But it still seems like he's not quite there. But I feel like if he would just continue... Okay, with Glass, maybe this was like a practice round, and then when Glass comes around, we'll really see if he's back or not. And then maybe if Glass makes a big splash, maybe he can get back into his groove. I really hope so, because this is not the shit I've been seeing, like Acts of Violence and The Prince and Vice, Once Upon a Time in Venice. This is not the shit he should be doing. It really is not. I'd even throw Cop Out into that. I mean, it's I think Cop Out seemed to really be when the I don't give a fuck really started to kind of kick in. But thankfully, Looper was in there and showed us that yeah, Bruce Willis is still here, just when he really gives a fuck. And it's like he had that conversation. Kevin Smith had that conversation with Rian Johnson about, dude, was he as much of a nightmare as he was for me when you guys did Looper? And he's like, no, he was great on Looper. And it's like when he gives a shit about the movie, then he'll give a shit about acting. And it's like, but I get you. I mean, I would like to think this was the sign of him. Like this is just the precursor to Glass. But in the meantime, we were just, yeah. He's still kind of just he's trying more, but yeah. And so yeah, and obviously they are gonna. We do obviously talk about the fact that they do try to update it a little bit. Like we've got all the different, like instead of him being like talked about on the news and stuff, he's being talked about on like podcasts and like that Sway in the Morning talk show where they did that was where Shia LaBeouf did the freestyling and all that. And it's like it's like there were like two like YouTube community areas that they used, and that was like about it. So I don't know what the deal with that was, but I feel like Roth was promoting The Green Inferno or something, and they're like, hey man, if you like put us in a movie, we will love you forever, and that's how that happened. I'm gonna go with that. But then there's also stuff like when they like the phone footage catches him. So it's like obviously like an older movie would have been like, oh, security footage, but it's because she immediately records it, then it can get on YouTube and go viral and all that stuff, and then he's like famous without his face being shown. The kick-ass approach, basically. He ends up in memes, which, yeah, I know they're still around, but they're still around, but it feels dated at the same time. It's like the when they put Dominic West in the Vine videos at the end of Money Monsters, what it reminded me of. But yes, so it really could have felt like they could have put a lot more emotion into it, like they did with Death Sentence. Death Sentence has so much emotion. Death Sentence is depressing. They put so much emotion in it, and so much of that realistic, heartache and bloodlust in it. And here, maybe they could have benefited from that. They could have gone two ways with this, with making it really, really emotional like Death Sentence and just really going out, or making it this really, really absurdly over-the-top bloodbath. And the problem is that they did neither. It just kind of falls in between as a movie that exists. And that's really all there is to it. It's really, they don't really do anything to change it up at all. It's not the best comeback vehicle for Willis. Once again, though, hopefully that's the last, we'll find out. And then that's... Yes, so that's all I really have to go on that. I can't read some of this now, but yeah, that's basically the gist of it. I think I've gone on too long anyway. I got way too caught up on Willis's thing there, but yeah, that's what that is. It's just completely and totally middle ground. You could see this movie a million times over in just any thriller section, and it doesn't even need to be called Death Wish. So that's what that is. Our next one is Red Sparrow, the movie most of you probably just know as that movie where Jennifer Lawrence is Russian. And she's reteaming with Francis Lawrence, who did the last 3 Hunger Games movies. But he also did like Water for Elephants and I Am Legend, and I think another one I can't remember off the top of my head. And the thing you'll notice about these movies is that he's one of those directors to where it's like, he's like Alex Proyas, to where you can't really say that his movies are always up to the quality that some of them are, but he's always got like an eye, no matter what movie he's doing. Like Water for Elephants is like a really, really good looking... I like the movie as a whole too, but especially in aesthetic. It just looks really good. I thought he did a really good job with I Am Legend too, despite how controversial some parts of that movie are. So whenever I see his name, I feel confident that the movie is going to be competently handled and look at least really good. And once again, he's with an actress that he's worked with like 3 times now, so yeah, it should be smooth sailing. And then you've got this incredible cast who really are hardly in it, most of them. So it's like you look at the cast list, you see like Edgerton and Shards and Irons, Mary Louise Parker. Don't expect a whole lot out of them, unfortunately. But what you have here instead is it seems like they're really... At the start, it was like, okay. Because the opening, when we get this back and forth between what Lawrence does and what Edgerton does, and we see Edgerton doing this whole, kind of spy thing, and we've got Lawrence doing her ballet thing, but it looks really nice, it looks gigantic, and it's like this whole thing. It's like, it almost puts the scenes in Black Swan to shame, this opening scene. And they go really nicely cutting back and forth, and it's like, these stories are just going to collide, and then we have that kind of, that omen into what's going to happen. So then, once that happens, the rest of the movie happens. And I will say, though, it did seem like a promising start because her character was very intriguing. We got a little bit of backstory about her. She's got, like, the sick mom and all that, and she lost her dream when she broke her leg, so she can't do the ballerina thing anymore. But then we immediately see the other sides to her when she goes to her replacement and, like, her old dude or whatever, her partner, and catches them fucking and beats the holy shit out of them with a cane. And it's like, okay, so this character's got that kind of stuff. It's easy to see now how this character will go in the direction we know she's going to go in. And there are a couple of scenes like that where she just lashes out in these, fits of violence that, like, really catch you off, and you're like, okay, this character almost feels like she's kind of, like, unpredictable and she's mysterious, even though we've got most of her backstory already. And it's like, alright, let's see where this goes now. But it loses steam, like, really, really fast. And I think it starts with the fact, when she goes to Sparrow school with Charlotte Rampling. That's another recognizable face that's hardly used. So, when I realized this was going to probably start going downhill was the fact that once she went to Sparrow School and we saw what was taking place, and it was like, I feel like there's a really interesting movie in here. And it's like, I feel like there's something, like, totally riveting in this. And it's like, this is going to set up for a lot of those scenes that are, like I said, those individual scenes that just really hit, even if, like, in context don't mean as much, still, just the way it looks and this whole setup that we have, and, like, all these different directions we can go in. And it's like we just kind of barely scratch a little bit of surface on a portion of the movie that could be its own movie. Like, the whole Sparrow School thing could be its own movie. This is like, if we took out Edgerton entirely from the first half, it would feel like we were watching a movie and then its sequel. Because it's so fucking long. But the Edgerton thing does kind of keep us in line, and is kind of this, to be fair, this kind of consistent line that makes sure the movie doesn't go off in too many directions and doesn't, make itself even longer. So, but that's the thing, though, is that the Sparrow School thing, I say, is interesting enough to make me think that, but the execution of it could not have been more dull and not more disappointing than it was. Because it's like, just when you think it's going to go in so many different places, it's just like, alright, it's time for the next thing. And the lead-in to what gets her to Sparrow School, the incident, is like, there's so many intriguing things here that feel like there's like 3 different segments, one after the other, in this movie that feel like the start of a really good movie, and then they just don't deliver on any of them. And so there's a lot of that, and I guess, for the most part, I found Lawrence to be pretty believable. I know I haven't heard, but I guarantee everybody's probably bitching about that accent. Once again, I don't really know enough about that to know when somebody's doing a flawless accent or when somebody's really... Sometimes you can tell, but for the most part, it's like there'll be an accent that sounds just fine to me, and then I hear everybody saying, oh my god, they so fucked it up. And I feel like I would say over half the people that complain about accents don't really know as much as they probably think they do. They just hear an actress or actor putting on an accent that's not theirs, and they're like, I'll sound cultured and, like, in the know if I say, oh, how terrible that accent is everybody looking, how terrible that accent. I don't really buy it when people do that criticism all the fucking time. So here, I don't care. I really don't care about the accent. So with that in mind, there's so many other things to dislike about this movie. Leave that be. Uh, so we go on here, and yeah, I was trying to accept it for a while because it's like it starts off, in about 20 minutes in, you have to say to yourself, okay, this is absolutely 100% a work of fiction. It's like this cannot be the way these people work, or there would be no secrets. There's like everybody talks so openly about everything. Everybody's weirdly trustworthy of everybody. There's like another question is so I'm trying to figure out how well known she would have been when she was a ballerina, because they say, oh, she's the prima ballerina of whatever the fuck, and like she has these big giant crowds, and it's like, so you have this person that's been in front of all these crowds before, has the title prima ballerina, and it's like, let's just dye her hair blonde and send her to secret places and make her do secret shit, despite the fact that clearly she has to be identifiable to somebody at some point. But we'll let it go. The movie's just kind of full of all that stuff, so it's like very early on I tried to come to terms with that. But, I mean, it just, there's so many things in this movie that just kind of rely on the whole, the only way you're going to get enjoyment out of this is just to let it go. And it's like, you can let it go only so many times before you're like, I think this movie is actually just really clumsy and poorly written and not very well put together, come to think of it. So, I don't know. But then you've got, and there's enough here. Okay, there's enough here that at least the character Lawrence is playing could have been engaging by herself. And since she basically is the movie, that could have been enough. Like, we've got the whole dancing lead-in, we've got the story with her mom, but the thing is that sometimes she seems totally out of her element, and sometimes it's like, holy shit, she's so hardcore, she's gonna be above everybody. And it just kind of seems to, they couldn't really seem to pick one of those. So it was like, whatever this scene requires to make the plot keep going is what person she's going to be now, what personality she's going to have now. And so that's kind of hard to get into. That's where it comes into where it's like, regardless of how good Lawrence might be, there's only so much she can do with this character that's really kind of hard to keep up with. So, but then there's also, there's the thing about, I would say it takes itself too seriously, but then it's like, this is where it kind of becomes troublesome, because it's like, I think the movie's problem is just how serious. This movie is like so fucking dead serious all the fucking time for all 2 hours and 20 minutes of it. But it's like, I don't know, I can't really imagine this movie having too much of it, like, too much of a sense of humor about itself, but it's like, it's not working taking itself too... If it's going to take itself as seriously as it does, it needed to be smarter. It needed to figure that out before it went that route. But, yeah, it just... Obviously, another problem is that what this movie really should have been, like, what it feels like the whole heart of this movie is supposed to be, given the story, the way they interact, and all that, the real fire in this movie should have been the chemistry between her and Edgerton. Like, this movie could have really worked as, like, usually I'm, like, trying to get as far away from this kind of thing as possible, but this movie, I think it actually would have worked. If we had actually spent more time on the two of them, and, like, them eventually, because their chemistry, given these characters and the directions it goes, should have been, like, electric. Like, this movie should have been, like, what is it, Sea of Love, or something, where it's like, it's this thriller, but there's like an erotic charge to it underneath, and I feel like in some of these scenes that's what they're going for, but there's no, and obviously Lawrence and Edgerton are absolutely, completely capable of doing this, but the problem is like, it's not just that there's like no chemistry there whatsoever, like it's just absolutely vacant between them. But the movie doesn't even give them time to, is the problem. It's just trying to move so fast while at the same time feeling so slow. There's nothing for them to do here, and like the first time they kiss feels like it should be like this big moment that's just so fucking charged and like this big turning point. And it's just like that's all it is. And then they just go to the next scene, and it doesn't matter. And it feels like that's what the whole movie should have been hinged on, is the two of them and this thing that's going on or not going on, or somewhere in the middle of that. And it's, yeah. So that's another way to where it's like, it just seems like there was something there. There is a good movie in here. There really is. Story-wise, it's definitely here, but there's just nothing in the contents. Like, when you get down and try to find the specific details in it, there's nothing fucking here. This movie feels like it's like the blueprint of a really good movie. And that's the thing, too, is you can tell how dragged out and dull it's going to be when what feels like the blueprint of a good movie is 2 hours and 20 minutes. I know I'm really dwelling on that, but I mean, the movie's too fucking long. It really is. So, and there's like, no, and the thing is it's like, kind of like I was talking about with Death Wish, it's kind of like, you keep waiting for, like, the flow is going to start. So you're like, okay, once we get to this moment, then we're off to the races. But it's like, no, like, we get to a moment, and then it's kind of there, it kind of hits, but then we just go right back to where we were, just kind of flatlining. And then it's like, it kind of shows a sign of life here. Mary Louise Parker is like the biggest, you know, injection of adrenaline to it. It's like, once she's here for her big scene, it's kind of like, okay, finally, the movie has life. The movie has energy. It's like, why couldn't this movie have been about Mary Louise Parker's character? Just keep her drunk the whole time, too. Whatever you need to do. No. It's one scene in a 2 hour and 20 minute movie. That is not enough life. That is not enough to resurrect this thing. And then obviously it tries to do the twists and turns and all that, thinking it's all clever, showing us, oh, this is how this came about, and when you thought this was happening, actually this was happening. And it's one of those. So that's always fun. Always a sign of a great movie when they do that shit. The Now You See Me curse. Great. So that's... I don't really know what else to say, because, yeah, all this runtime, all this stuff seeming like it's going to happen, seeming like it's going on, just, it feels like hardly really goes down. And there are moments where it does have, like, some surprising violence in it, but the thing is the violence is, like, so sudden and so jarring and so graphic that it is effective when it happens, but it just goes to show as soon as it's over, which it's over very quickly, then the dullness of the movie comes forth even more so, where it makes it even more apparent just how dull everything else is, and that's 95% of it. So that's, yeah, that sucks, because I really feel like there was something good in here and something really interesting. You could have had a lot of interesting characters doing a lot of interesting things with a really interesting list of actors, and we got this. And that's what that is. I hated it more while I was watching it than I do now. I will say that. So, at least it has that going for it. So, our last movie is going to be Game Night. Game Night is basically our comedic approach to The Game, the David Fincher movie with Michael Douglas. Obviously. Where, obviously, Kyle Chandler wants to make the game nights that Rachel McAdams and Jason Bateman get so caught up in and turn it into something real in true Sean Penn fashion. So, then, and the interesting thing about this movie is, for starters, the directors are John Francis Daley and Jonathan Goldstein, who made the Vacation movie with Ed Helms from a few years ago. You know, like one of the worst comedies of the past couple of decades, I think. And so, I was scared, but then I was watching this, and it was like, okay, there is something to this, because the opening is, like, really, really energetic. Like, this is a movie that, like, is instantly just comes to life when it begins. Starting with the company logos being, like, game pieces, where it's like, okay, yeah, that's kind of cute, but then it keeps going, and it's just this whole thing, and it's so great to see, because there's so many lazy comedies. It's so great to see a comedy like this that just starts with this energy immediately and, like, barely lets up, like, the whole time. It's like, it doesn't hold out the entire time, but even so, this movie just keeps going and has no intentions of stopping, which is a really good place to start for this. And because I was really surprised when I saw all the really good reviews it was getting, and, like, I was hearing really good things about it too, and it was like, all right, that's kind of unexpected. And so, obviously, being a fan of Jason Bateman, I decided to check it out. And yeah, I was really, even knowing that people liked it going in, that just still really caught me by surprise, just how, you know, just alive it was. It's so weird that that's such an uncommon thing in comedies now, that this is amazing to us. That a comedy actually has, you know, fun in it. So, and it does, you know, go on. It's kind of like, what I feared initially when I heard the plot was that, and obviously the titles are only 2 letters different, was Date Night with Steve Carell and Tina Fey, which is really not very good at all. And yeah, there are a lot of similarities between those two, but it's also, like I said, you've got the game aspect, and you've also got... There's another movie that's not very good, that's a horror approach to this, that did this same style, which is called Fear Incorporated. Where it's basically this, but they're in a horror movie as opposed to a game, but it's the same setup, where it's people coming in and making the scenario around you. And there's a lot of really funny stuff, like, right away, like, the casting for this movie plays a big part in it. There's a couple of, like, unexpected cameos I don't really want to mention, but there's also, like, Jesse Plemons is the cop next door, who's, like, obsessed with doing game night with these people, but he's just so serious and stone-faced about it. Like, he is, like, deathly serious. He's just petting his dog the whole time, and he, like, there's, like, no sign that this dude is in a comedy. There's, like, no sign that he's gonna break or smile or anything. He's, like, he is in a dead serious head space when he's talking about, so, are you guys having another game night soon? It makes really great comedy every time he's on screen. He's easily one of the highlights of the movie. And the fact that he's kind of known for the mostly serious roles in general, at least lately, that just works even better. It's also one of those ones where this movie does better than other comedies lately, is these scenes with Jesse Plemons would feel like they were played out, like they would go on too long. Like the initial scene when we first meet him and he just keeps talking to them. In another movie it would probably seem like it was just milking and milking and milking. But because he just doesn't break at all, the scene stays funny the whole time, no matter how long they make it go. And every time he comes back, it's the same thing. It always works, no matter how long. So that really works also. There's also, going back to the comparisons, I feel like there's also a little bit of a Hangover influence in this one as well. But there's also, and yeah, I mean, it is very... One of the problems a lot of comedies have lately is how reference-heavy they are, and this movie is pretty reference-heavy. But for the most part, it does work. Like, there's the, like, you would think when they make, they're talking about brothers. Can't remember the exact jokes, but there's a reference to the Baldwin brothers. And, like, maybe 5 minutes later, there's a reference to the Wahlbergs. And it's like, in another movie, that would seem redundant, because it's like, oh, that joke again, they just reworded it. But no, it's like, it's 2 different jokes that have a different context. So it would seem redundant in another movie, but here it actually does work without feeling like they're just playing the same jokes over and over again, like Vacation did, for instance. And it's one of those cases also where, like, even when the scene is predictable, like, even when you know... This takes talent. Even when you know where the joke is going, the fact that you already know what the punchline is makes it even funnier. Like something as simple as when they're playing like that celebrity name game, and the clue is Edward Norton, and he says the Incredible Hulk, and they say Eric Bana, and he says no, the other one. We know everybody's going to say Mark Ruffalo, but for some reason, because we know that, when they all say Mark Ruffalo instead of Norton, it's just that much funnier. Where you can actually see the joke coming, and it works even more because you can see it coming. That's really hard to do, and that joke in particular really pulled it off. And there are a lot of clever, like, visual things here. Like, the camera work in this movie really stands out, especially for a comedy. And for, like, you would think also with a movie like this that they might get a little... Like, I was talking about this recently. It might have been something... Like, it might have been, like, Let's Be Cops or something. Where comedies that have scenarios like this that go big have this problem of, like, forgetting they're a comedy and, like, almost getting too invested in their own story. And it's like they forget what they're supposed to be doing, and then they just play it out like any other movie. And it's like, where the fuck did the comedy go? And this one is in danger of that, but they still manage to keep it up throughout. And the way they do this is like, there's obviously a lot of clever things going on, like the way the neighborhood looks like a game board, or then there's obviously gonna be references to games throughout. Like there's a scene, without saying too much, where Rachel McAdams basically has to play a real life operation, and then there is the moments when they like have to try to climb out of a room, so they stack boxes like Jenga, or then there's the whole setup of the movie. The game starting when the host of a party is taken, or whatever. It's like, the whole setup is Clue. Like, that's... so, and I believe there's even more, but those are the few that I, like, really noticed. So they're able to keep it clever like that, and able to not just rely on maybe one or two jokes, or, like, one or two specific areas. Like I was talking about, like the Seth Rogen problem, where it's like, he takes shit and he takes weed, and it's like, let's just work the script on this. And that's what we've got. Dicks, all that. And it's like, no, this movie has a whole bunch of different styles to itself, and like, where it goes for its jokes, and where it finds them, the different punchlines. Obviously, not all of them are going to work. There's one that's way prolonged. Like, the movie actually was brought down a level for me, because this joke went on so long, and never really felt like that much anyway. The whole thing where one of the guys' dates claims that she slept with a celebrity, and the entire rest of the movie consists of him trying to find out which celebrity it was. And then when we get to the payoff of that, it's like, it's gone so far off, and it's like, hold on, can we get back to the fucking movie now? What are you doing? Where are you fucking going? What are you doing over there? And it's like that, and that joke was never that great when they kept bringing it back and bringing it back and bringing it back. And the fact that the punchline of it has to take us in a totally different direction, it's like, that's something I didn't care for. That was like weirdly enough, a big part of the movie. And then, like I was saying before, it does have, like, it maybe it gets a little too energetic too early, because there are moments where it seems like it may kind of start to run out, even if it's still moving quickly and still going, like I was praising it for. It's kind of like, okay, I can still see it moving, but I think we kind of lost the magic a little bit. Sometimes they do bring it back. Like, there was a moment when I thought we were kind of running out of gas and we were getting to a stopping point, and then the passing of the egg scene happened, which is really cool and really well done. So there's stuff like that that kind of keeps it alive throughout, but there are also those moments where it just feels like a kind of a derailment, and an otherwise really great product. So, yeah, and like I said, the way it handles escalation, to where when, like, one particular scene of Jason Bateman and Jesse Plemons' bedroom is, like, just a perfect scene of a scene escalating out of another character's control, which is some of the best comedy there is. Like I said, there's a lot of that in, like, Meet the Parents and stuff like that. This scene is, like, a nice gold standard example of how that escalation, out of control thing works in comedy. So that's a really good scene. But yeah, there is, like I said, it is very reference heavy. It does kind of run out of gas. There is one joke that goes on for way too long with not a very good punchline. And I think it's the fact that they built it up so much. And I'm sure this is probably what they were doing on purpose. But I mean, even so, it's like, given what the joke is, and given just how much they build it up and how much they make it a big deal, the best possible payoff would have been a cameo. But I did not really care for that punchline, so it just kind of made it all feel pointless after so much build-up, so. But yeah, overall, though, very surprising, and I'm very glad that, like I said, we do have comedies like this. I don't think, okay, so, what? They like, wrote Horrible Bosses. They did a lot of the writing on Spider-Man Homecoming. They directed this. And so it's like, I'm beginning to think that Vacation was like some freak accident. It was like some horrible, terrible, tragic accident that went horribly wrong, some horribly miscalculated mess. Because these guys clearly do have talent. I was not saying that when I reviewed Vacation, but these guys do have talent. Well, John Francis Daley's been around for a while. He was Linda Cardellini's brother. Was it Linda Cardellini's brother? He's the kid in Freaks and Geeks. I can't remember exactly. It's been so long since I watched it. I need to do that now again. And he was like Mitch in Waiting. He was on Bones. So yeah, these guys are talented, but there was a while there where it was just like I thought Vacation was just the absolute worst thing that had happened to humanity. I don't really plan on changing that opinion. So the thing here, as I spit on myself, yes, we'll let Vacation go, and we'll get excited for what these guys are going to do from now on, and we'll see what happens. So, I think that's going to be it for this. I have no idea what's next week. A Wrinkle in Time, but I'm really hoping, I'm not holding my breath, but I'm really hoping we get Gringo, because I'd really like to check that out. And then after that is Tomb Raider the following week, and our big Bond video, so all of that to maybe or maybe not look forward to, it's hard to tell. So, then there's the Versus tomorrow, and then the Oscar stuff on Sunday, so I don't know if there's any point to me saying all this, because I don't know if any of these viewers cross over. I would doubt it, but that's what I'm doing. So, until then, we're done.